What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Legends Rise, an Elder Scrolls Online podcast, the show where we educate players new and old about the game itself, whether it's how to run dungeons, discussing combat, chatting about crafting, posing information about PvP, gabbing about guilds, babbling about builds, and so much more. I'm your host, Marcus Axford, and with me, as always, is my co-host, the beautiful and the lovely twice-born Empress of Cyrodiil herself, Lainy Kirkpatrick. How are you doing today, Lainy?
Well, it's been a day. We'll say that.
Yeah, God, I got the news. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Now you got a new title, and you're like, what? How is it to be emping out there these days?
Um, Good and bad, I will say. So I amped, and so the way the faction goes in PC and Ravenwatch is you've got DC and EP have pretty low pop around the board. EP gets a nice pop about 20, but in the morning because they're all Australians. So the Australians kind of gatekeep all day, take stuff all day, run the map all day. And then AD has like about 50, 60 people that get on during prime time at night. And obviously the Australians are nowhere to be seen during prime time.
Oh, no.
So yeah, so AD's mad because they got gated. And I'm doing my best to keep people from gating. But you can't do everything.
Right, right. Well, that's
So
awesome.
yeah, and I'm hoping like Wednesdays are normally like EP's good day because we have one of the guilds has a werewolf night and one of the comp groups runs. So cross your fingers I don't get past to Wednesday because I think someone's boosting.
I mean, hey, it's cool that you find, because this is your first time on PC doing it, right?
No, it's my second time. I amped before on AD, but it just wasn't a good environment in the faction. So I gave it up right away because I didn't want to deal with
I
it.
thought you got
Toxic
Emp on
crap.
console.
No, I
Okay.
never amped on console. I got it on PC.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I
So
could.
the other one I didn't get to enjoy. So this one I'm trying to enjoy.
Okay.
But it's
Awesome.
hard to enjoy it, right, when the map is dead when all the EP are on. And then
Yeah.
when all the AD get on, that's when all the EP are gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, so I've got a fun little thing we can do real quick before we really get into the show. So, I don't know if you caught any of the last stream that Gina, Bruno, and the others did, but I happened to snag because I finally figured out how to get how everything's linked for my Twitch. So now every time I watch a stream, I'll get my drops now, which is cool. So I got the Ouroboros crown crates, and I've been wanting to do the unboxing stuff on Twitch, but I've been having a heck of a time streaming. I mean, it doesn't help, my schedule's been all over the place, but I don't think I've really been getting anybody watching. So I figured, hey, let's open up these Ouroboros boxes right now, even though
Alright.
nobody can see. You're just gonna hear me like really excited, like, oh my god, I got something. And actually, it's really funny because I actually just got a bonus card to reveal all. What did I get? Wow, that bonus card was nothing. I'm glad these are free. Holy shit.
Wait, so you're doing the unboxing, but you're not showing anyone the unboxing?
Well, how am I gonna show them on a podcast?
I mean, but we also have YouTube, so you could have streamed it to Discord.
I don't have a capture card. Oh wait, no, I could have. You're right. No, I'm sorry. You're right. Stream it to. Well, no, because it's on Xbox. So I do know.
That's right. I forgot you're non-PC.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I do want to eventually get a capture card at some point, but it wasn't exciting. Actually, yeah, that was the. Oh, I thought there were two.
Those Ouroboros crates are never really exciting. I just turn everything in for gems.
Yeah, yeah, that's just what I'm going to do. I thought I got two, but apparently it was only one. 3 crown tri-restoration potions, a crown mimic stone, and a crown lesson writing capacity, which is useless for me because stamina is the only thing I have left, and I'm like, well, I'm not too far into stamina, but my writing and speed is already done, so... Oh,
You don't do speed and stamina first.
no, I do capacity first.
I do capacity last. You should always do speed first.
You also are a PvPer, so Cyrodiil having to
What, you want to run around in PvE on a slow mount?
I just way shrine everywhere. So, I actually
So you have
don't
to
use...
run in between them?
I don't use my horse that much, actually. Yeah.
I mean, I have a wolf, but you know.
I got from... Because, and again, I really wanted to do it on stream, and it sucks that I didn't, but I did the... I sunk 5k crowns into the 15 Dark Chivalry crown crates, and I was not disappointed. I had some really cool pulls, including the Soul Razor Bear mount, which I use now, and it's just a really cool mount. So, turning everything in, and now on to the show. Welcome to our final combat role, tanking. But before we get into it, we want to remind you that Legends Rise has an amazing Discord community, and you can find the links for that on our Twitter or Facebook at Legends Rise ESO. We also have an Instagram where we post pics of our adventures, and you can find that at Legends Rise ESO as well. And we are on YouTube at Legends Rise ESO channel. So if you are listening to this through our podcast, you can find the links to all of our stuff in the description, and vice versa if you're watching on YouTube, including a link for the Discord there as well. We also have a Legends Rise guild network we are very slowly building called the Council of Legends. So currently we have Xbox NA, we have PCE, and we have PCEU, and our favorite Brit Jinjar manages that one. So if you're looking to join either of those, come see either me or Jinjar on Discord. You can't miss it. The Discord role is orange. Our podcast is now added to Bonus Roll Productions, which is like this roster of podcasts that you can give ratings and reviews for. It's like Yelp for podcasting, so check us out, as well as all of our other ESO content creator friends at bonusroll.gg, and give us all the stars and reviews. And also don't forget to rate us on Spotify, which we have 19 total reviews at 4.7 stars. Thank you guys so much for that. Keep up the good work, and give us reviews on Apple Podcasts. It all really helps us out. As an aside, we are closing in on 3K total plays for this show in just 4 months. It is insane. I was actually talking to Tom from Robots Radio, because I had just listened to the interview over there on 10th Divine, and it's really funny because he's like, yeah, you know, I started, I think he said the Fallout one, and he's like, yeah, his was like right out of the gate where it was popular, whereas it took us, you know, I think it was a couple months to get that stride of 100 per week. So, but it was really funny. I even told him, like, yeah, it's like hearing the similar conversation about the numbers. So I thought that was really cool. So, where was I? Oh yeah, we also have a Twitch channel. Come check us. Yeah, check me out. God, there's so much at Legends Rise ESO for Tribute Tuesdays, where I provide a sort of next day post show, as well as play some Tales of Tribute and doing some other stuff. I'm also trying to stream Thursdays as well, and any other chance I can. Like Saturday, I did a couple hours stream of Tales of Tribute, and it was awful. I lost 3 matches in a row, ranked matches. I think I lost or won my 4th one, which is unranked, or maybe I lost and then I did a 5th one, and I finally won. I'm just like, good lord, this is crazy.
It took you a while.
Yeah, I know. Like, and I just...
PvP is hard, right?
What? Yeah, yes, it is. Well, because the thing is, it was that thing of, like, I look for Pelin cards to build my power up. And
yeah, there's other ways to build your power besides those cards.
No, but I'm saying I have a strategy. My strategy is try to hit those high boosting Pelin cards, and then use other cards to thin out your deck, so you're constantly drawing power cards at all times. You don't need gold anymore. Or sometimes I'll, take advantage of getting a lot of gold and using the Crow, playing tug of war with other players. But it was just a thing of, it would be my turn, I would finally have the gold to get something on my next turn, but they happen to get all the gold first, even though every turn I'm getting that Rick coin. And it's just frustrating. It's just one of those things where you're always one step behind, and it's just so annoying. You're like, if I had just been able to get that one card, or just have that, one more turn, I could have just turned the tide of the whole thing. But So yeah, check out me being frustrated on
Um,
stream.
I just like to point out, shame on someone else for also having a similar strategy
Why?
on a game that is mostly decided by luck.
Yeah, well, that's just it. When we do our Tales of Tribute episode eventually, I will say that there is a lot of like chess level skill and planning, but also there is just that luck of the draw. You don't
I
know.
mean, most of it's luck though, because you can strategize your cards, but there's no way to figure out which ones you get during that hand.
Yeah, I mean
You
there.
can't always get the combos that you want because of it.
Right, right. Even when you like have the cards that allow you to foresee what's coming next, you still have to build at putting those cards in your deck, which can ultimately ruin your strategy anyway. So yeah, it can be a big guessing game of, what you're gonna have to work with. Like I've seen people like gain like 15 to 20 gold and they only have like 3 cards in their hand, and I'm like, how are you doing this? I don't understand. So, but yeah, check it out. It's a lot of fun. The times aren't always accurate because of my schedule, but I do try to stream somewhere between 6 and 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm not going to be streaming this Tuesday. Well, I mean, by the time this episode's out, people already know. But I will not have streamed this past Tuesday. Time is weird because some of the friends wanted to get together for Magic the Gathering, and I haven't been able to do that for a while because life. So, I mean, patrons will hear the disappointment when the episode drops on Tuesday. Become a patron. Get disappointment earlier. So, finally, if you love listening to us here and you want more, speaking of patron, you can go to patreon.com/legendsrise ESO, and for $5. Oh, I forgot to do the item of the week. Oh, well. Let's go with gas is getting better.
Is it?
It's 5:17 in town here. So
5:30 here, so I guess it is down.
it is getting better. So, but still less than a tank of gas or a price of a large coffee at Starbucks. You can get a lot of cool stuff like shoutouts, raffle entries, ad-free episodes of the show, early episodes of the show, and more. You help us improve the show, meet our personal goals, and keep the lights on. We have a new patron this week. Stuart Wallace, aka our resident Brit, Ginjar, rewarded me for getting his Discord name right. And as always, thank you to Jacob Byers for your contribution to our patron page as well.
Look at Marcus doxing everyone out there.
I mean, it's the on the patron. It says who, because you create your little profile and it says who you are, and so that's who gets announced.
Well, I mean, but like, what if he didn't want people to know his real name?
Well, then, all right.
Attached to his fake name.
Future patrons, you know what? I'm following a formula. Everybody does this for Patreon. But yeah, I should say, actually, if you do not want your name out, well, I guess I would assume that you would just like not put your real name as part of your
Don't
profile.
worry, Marcus will tell everyone.
But that's part of the patron. is just giving you shout outs. How am I supposed to know who to shout out if I don't know your name? I don't care what your name is, just post one. Oh, Stuart, aka Ginjar, just happens to be in the Discord. All right, let me take a nice swig of water and we'll get into this. Some good old ASMR right there. All right. With all of that out of the way, let's get into it. Oh, look, we're in 15 minutes. And we're just...
We wasted 15 minutes doxing people. Look at that.
It's a good episode. I've been looking forward to this. So, what is tanking? This role is for people who love being meat shields and taunting big scary things. So, your job as a tank, your main goals, right, are to taunt and keep aggro on, at minimum, the boss and whatever other mechanics are required of the tank. And your secondary is providing any support, usually in the form of debuffs on the boss, or you can use sets to like buff your group's DPS, that sort of thing. We talked about last episode. about, healer generally buffs the group. Usually the tank debuffs the boss. That's not always the case, but that's kind of the pattern you see quite often. And for the record, Lainy, you aren't as familiar with tanking as I am, correct?
No, you're fused. I don't have the patience, or I'm ADHD, right? So I squirrel
Right, right,
off.
right, right, right.
People explain mechs, and if they're doing a really long explanation, I have no idea what's going on by the time we start the fight. My mind has long ago squirreled off. I cannot be a tank for that reason. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I can't remember mechs or what I'm supposed to do.
Right, and I will say that since you brought it up again, bringing up very good points. The tank is very much like, so the healer is the most important role, but the tank is kind of the leader of 4-person content, because the tank is the one who kicks off the fight. The tank, you go into the boss chamber, you put on your resistances, whatever else you do to get ready for the fight. Maybe you have a monster set that has a specific thing that needs to be done before you kick off the fight. I can't remember. There's a couple monster sets that are like that, and I can't remember what they are. But and then, yeah, you taunt the boss, you start the fight, and everybody gets into position and does what they need to do. So, yes, tanks are very much the leadership role when it comes to at least dungeon content. So, another thing I will say is tanks are mainly PvE content. Because, Lainey, am I correct in that tanks don't really exist in PvP?
I mean, sometimes they do. I've seen people run trolley tank builds that do no damage. But for the most part, everyone is just building into tankiness, so you're building into at least 30k health into most builds in PvP. So that's why penetration builds in PvP are really the way to go. Crit builds are really good too, but you've got to have a little bit of penetration just to get under all that armor.
Okay, yeah. I mean, again, considering the point of a tank is to, like, taunt. You can't taunt other players. It would be kind of weird if you could. Just goad them into fighting you. They can only fight you. That would be so weird. So, yeah, it would make sense that tanks traditionally, like you would in a boss fight, don't really exist in PvP. They would look different, or like you said, most people are geared to be really meaty and hard to hit in PvP content. So, out of the 3 roles, tanking is, for the sake of the episode and teaching, we will say that it is a pretty much a PvE role that you're looking at doing. And have fun questing as a tank. Because you as a tank, you're not supposed to do a whole lot of damage. I run a build a particular way that allows me to do all my quest. I still kill slowly, but not as slowly as a traditional tank that does next to no damage at all. So at least I can go around, and you can. We'll cover this more when we talk about like builds and stuff, but and this is hard for me because I'm very much focused on one thing. That's why I don't do alt characters, but you can do like, well, now we have the armory for this specific purpose, but you can do like builds with specific sets in mind for specific situations. People do this for dungeons too, like, oh, the group needs more damage, so I'm gonna go ahead and swap for Yolnacrin, which every time you taunt gives everybody, I believe it's minor courage, buffing the group's overall DPS. It's a trial set. Or like, oh, people need more, or, the boss needs more debuffs, whatever it may be. I would even say maybe out of healing and tanking, you're possibly swapping out more sets as a tank, depending on, because again, tank's all about survivability. So you need to make sure you're surviving and doing all your stuff that you need to do. So you're basically making up for, okay, why is the healer dying? Why is the DPS constantly or like not meeting that damage threshold? What could I be doing as the leader of the group that could be, helping out my team more? So we talked about taunting, and I'm actually in the game right now, as we discussed. Opened up my very lame Ouroboros Crown Crate. So, tanking is very niche. What I mean by that is, like, DPS has a great wide variety of skills and gear and strategies they can use. Healer gets a little more narrow. There's going to be some skills that you're going to be obviously constantly running over others and certain gear, but tanking, it seems to be the most pigeonholed because, again, like, there is healer and DPS in PvP, but it doesn't really exist for tanking. So you're looking at, most people run just certain sets, use certain skills, what have you. So because tanks have to taunt, we're going to go into our skills here. And there are three main ways you can taunt as a tank. One of them is actually tied to a specific weapon. Well, actually, two of them are tied to specific weapons. But I guess before I get into the skill, I should say for gear, you're going to be always running sword and board. Like, you can double bar ice destro staves for particular builds. Warden in particular, I believe, has passives that greatly help you, and also if you use the Bloodlord's Embrace mythic item, that every time you block you regain magicka. Well, if you're running a destro stave, your blocking takes from your magicka resource pool and not your stamina resource pool like traditional blocking does. And yes, you're going to need to block quite a bit. All roles have to block, but tank is primarily blocking. Again, there are very particular builds, like mine has always been, where I still block, but I don't block as often because there's just constant healing coming my way to a ridiculous point. Like, I'm only dropping 10% of my health most of the time, depending on the fight. But as a new tank, you should always be trying to block, always trying to heavy attack and gain your resources back, and that kind of thing. So you have a sword and board, which is very important, or sword and shield. And then the optional, if you don't want to double bar sword and shield, your optional is a ice destro stave in the back, because if you want to do like the brittle debuff and stuff like that, and slowing down enemies. I've never really particularly used a ice destro staff, so I'm not entirely sure what how that's helpful as a tank, so my knowledge lacks a little bit on that. But I do know that there are, especially recently, they've introduced the brittle debuff, and it helps with what does that debuff do again? I think it has
the wrong person to ask.
I think it has something to do with, and people are yelling at me right now. I believe it has something to do with reducing critical damage.
Oh.
Brittle ESO. Should I go to USP? I can't remember what the acronym is. There's a discussion in the.
I know what you're talking about. I just don't remember the name.
Yeah. I remember there's a fun discussion in our podcasters Discord. What? You didn't use this resource? But it was on the fly. ESO hub. Yeah, minor brittle. And minor brittle increases critical damage taken by 10%. So that gives you another debuff as a tank against your boss. And especially if you're a necromancer and you're using Nazare Monster Helm, you are already, when you're dropping that Colossus ult, you're already putting major vulnerability, which makes The boss and enemies susceptible to, I believe, 10% of all forms of damage. I believe it is. Where is that dang thing? Applies major vulnerability to any enemy hit for 12 seconds, increasing their damage taken by 10%. So, yes. So, again, talking about debuffs, it's all these really cool things that you're doing. But Ice Destro Stave is totally optional. You don't have to run it if you don't want to, get too complicated with how your combat works. Because we'll get into how rotation, or lack thereof, comes into play. But going back to taunting skills, since we've kind of given you a minor introduction to that, and like I said, I apologize if I'm the one doing all the talking this episode. Actually, Lainy, if you have any questions yourself, kind of like how I did with the healing episode, feel free to interrupt me.
Yeah, of course.
So I am on the wrong skill bar. I want to go down to... Nope, that's too far. Where is it? There we go. One-handed. So, from the one-handed, you have... I don't remember what I think the original skill's called Puncture, because mine's morphed. So, also, I will say about when we talk about skills, because again, that's something that'll have its own episode with how things are laid out. But if you look at certain skills, it will, if you look below cost, some of them actually say what role they're meant for or supposed to be for, best used for, whatever you want to call it. So, like, Heroic Slash, which is Low Slash, something like that. It's the second one down on the one-hand and shield skill line. But that's not specifically a tanking skill. Puncture, however, is, because you thrust your weapon with discipline precision at an enemy, dealing X physical damage and taunting them to attack you for 15 seconds. Important thing to know about taunting, always try to re-taunt within about 5 seconds left of your timer. I think we talked about timers, I can't remember, but
there's an add-on for that.
On PC, yes, and we also have options too that we went through, but I just don't remember if we went through the options on that episode with them. But you can turn on timers and stuff. I think we'll go over that when we get to more advanced stuff.
They show in your bars.
Yeah. So you want to make sure that you're not taunting like repeatedly, or else you hit I think it's like a soft cooldown or something like that.
Right, where it doesn't taunt.
Yeah.
So that's a problem.
Yeah. Taunt falls off. There's a cooldown. You can't re-taunt after, I don't know what it is, like 3 to 5 seconds, maybe a little bit more, but even 3 seconds is all it takes for I've seen this shit, for a boss to just turn around, make an angry face at the healer, and boom, dead.
Yeah, the boss only has to look at the healer and the healer dies.
Yeah. And, I've gotten criticism for this as well. And I know the specific dungeon that I had accidentally done this, where you want to make sure that you're trying to position the boss in certain ways, depending on what the dungeon demands and what the mechanics are. You're just going to have to live with the fact that sometimes DPS are dumb, sometimes the healer's dumb. It just goes with the territory about how they're not standing where they should be. It's like, oh, I'm trying to move the boss away from you, and DPS decides to go behind you, which is a very dumb thing to do. Again, seen that happen too, but I believe it was Depths of Malatar. The dungeon had been out for like 2-3 years, and I had never done it before. And we got it as a random vet dungeon. And I'm like, all right, I guess here we go. I still haven't beaten Depths of Malatar on vet, but
I hate that dungeon so much.
Oh god, it's so horrible. You have to have a DPS threshold for that, because those bosses, the tank can only hold those bosses for so long. You've got to just burn those things down, because it was the first boss that hunger, and it just kept disappearing, and every time it reappeared, I got startled, and I'm trying to hold it, and I'm also trying to like stand out of the stupid, the acid it drops, so I'm not dying. But that's one of those high level dungeons where you have to put faith in your healer that your healer's just going to heal you through all of it. And I'm sorry, but I often do not have faith in anyone in a dungeon. Unless I've ran a lot with them, or I know who they are and we can like get angry at each other without actually like hurting each other's feelings. But yeah, so the high level of trust in a dungeon, but positioning is important as well. So let's see, I'm trying to make sure that my tangents aren't distracting because there's a lot to talk about with tanking, and I'm trying to make sure we get the full gist of it in this one episode. So you have that as your one of your basic taunts. It's a short range taunt, and people might call me crazy, but I actually only use one taunt. I don't use both of them. The other taunt is down here in Undaunted, and it's going to be your third ability you unlock, called I believe it's Inner Fire. And I personally use Inner Rage just because of how my build works currently, so you ignite the fires of hate in an enemy's heart, dealing X magic damage to them and taunting them to attack you for 15 seconds. It's always 15 seconds for some reason. I think that's just how it balances out. A ranged ally targeting the taunted enemy can activate the radiate energy, dealing X magic damage to them for 3 seconds, then additional to all. Oh. So, don't you love it when you find things out in the middle of a recording? They changed it. They changed Inner Rage. So, I believe it used to be where if you took Inner Rage, it was only a 50% chance the synergy would show up, but the trade-off was enemies took 5% damage from you specifically. So because I wore Leeching Plate and Balrahaz, cool. So the enemy I'm taunting is taking a little bit more damage, which means I heal just a little bit more. That awesome synergy and making my character that much harder to kill. And then the other one, you didn't have that, but you had a guaranteed synergy for people to, activate. But I don't know what Inner... We're going to do a little research because now I'm really curious, because I don't necessarily look at, patch notes all the time. And this is one of those that probably slipped through my radar. Dealing X magic. So, or is it Inner Beast that it does? Oh my god, pop-ups, quit that. As if he sent... 50%. Converts into a stamina ability and deals physical damage. The enemy takes more damage from your attacks. Oh, okay, no, never mind. So for some reason, I don't have Inner Beast. I have Inner Rage. Okay, so it is the other one. It was probably when I was kind of experimenting with other sets and stuff like that, and I happened to redo it. I thought it would have been kind of weird that they retooled Inner Rage, because there's just some skills like, why mess with it too much? Why fix what's not broken? So, my bad. I was thinking of Inner Beast that I had because, yeah, enemies take more damage from your attacks while active if they are not a player. Very important right there, because, Lainy, as you were saying, there are some abilities that specifically affect players and specifically affect only NPCs. And some of them specifically affect both. Mm-hmm. So that's your other taunt. Now, the difference between these two is Inner Fire, Rage, Beast, whatever, is a ranged taunt, which is great for when you, as the tank, get, like, separated from other players, or for some reason the boss throws you, and you just lose taunt, and you have to get taunt back quickly. This is why I don't use Puncture, because I would rather have that skill slot for something else. And, inner fire works both close range and medium range. So why use anything else? So and I'm sure I might get somebody saying, well, this is why, blah, 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 which I'm not saying it's not whatever they may have is not a valid argument at all. I'm just expressing how I personally play and how my brain works with my builds. So the third taunting ability, and it's not really an ability, it's more of a passive that goes with a weapon. And I believe, there it is. Does it say it in the passive? No, it's not that one. Okay, so penetrating magic, Triforce, fully charged, Ice Staff. Where is the... So, Ice Staves, heavy attacks will... Oh, that's right. They changed it. So it's no longer on the passive. It's on the stick. So, Ice Staves natively taunt when you heavy attack with them. I can't remember when they changed that. Because it used to be where... Is it? Reduce the cost of blocking. Okay, yeah. It used to be where it was on a passive ability. So if you ticked off the passive ability, then you basically could toggle whether the Ice Stave taunted or not for you. But now, Trifocus, while an Ice Staff is equipped, blocking costs Magicka instead of Stamina. So that is still a toggle thing. You can still very much block with using a staff with Stamina, but again, there's ways to do that to where Magicka can be more effective, especially if you want to be weird and, go with a double bar tank or double Destro staff tank build. It's perfectly viable. I always encourage people to do weird stuff. I don't like it when people shame people for doing weird stuff. So there's that, and I believe I'm not skipping anything else.
I think you went over that in great detail.
Yeah. Well, the ancient knowledge would be the other thing. Equipping an ice staff reduces the cost of blocking by 18% and increases the amount of damage you block by 10%. Very important. We'll get into damage mitigation here in a second, but very important. So it's really cool how, again, that whole weird idea of double bar ice destros as a tank is heavily supported with those two things. So those are basically the three. There's technically a fourth taunt, and it's the kind of setup where it allows you to taunt as a werewolf because, spoiler alert, you cannot taunt as a werewolf. I think that's the only time you lose access to your abilities, which means
werewolf tanks are still extremely viable because I believe there are sets that will taunt for you.
Yes, Tormentor. Tormentor, which I have made a werewolf tank before, and it's fun. It's really fun because werewolves, I believe it's pack leader, natively grants your entire team, whether they're also werewolves or not, I believe it's minor courage, which means they always have a buff to their DPS, which is fantastic.
Yes.
It kind of makes me want to do a werewolf.
You also take 10% less damage in pack leader.
Yeah. Kind of makes me want to do a werewolf build again. A werewolf tank again. It's super fun. It's just the fact that in order to taunt, it takes up an entire 5-slot gear setup. Because Tormentor, I think it's Tormentor.
Tormentor.
Let's look up.
It's Tormentor, Marcus.
No, I know that, but I want to... Oops, that's not what I meant. I want to look up the exact wordage for the kiddies out there. So Tormentor, which the 2, 3, and 4-piece bonuses are also really cool too. So you have maximum health, healing taken twice, and when you deal direct damage with a charge, leap, teleport, or pull ability, you gain 3,642 physical and spell resistance and taunt the enemy to attack you for 15 seconds. It's always 15 seconds. Now, the important part of that is the fact that that's not a named buff on your part. So you're gaining even more resistances on top of course, I don't think werewolves have like major, what is that? Like what your armor stuff does. Like oh, I guess I'm in the game. I should know. Oh, let's go with this. Yes, because that also
Major
gives...
resolve?
Yep. I was going to say, yes, major resolve. So it's not major... It's not resolve, so...
No, it's not resolve.
So I don't think the werewolf has the ability to gain, through its abilities, any sort of resolve upping your physical and spell resistance. But they natively gain a ton. But we'll get into... I'll correct anything in the werewolf episode here when we get into it during Halloween time here in a few months, which I'm really excited for. Spooky season. So... But there's all kinds of really cool ways you can tank, and hey, if you, like just with any other build, if you just practice and practice and practice, you can get good at it, and somebody who like mouths off and goes, oh, werewolf tank, that's stupid, and then you can take them through a dungeon and shut them the hell up. I've seen it. It's freaking cool. A few other things that are important for a tank that we'll go through real quick are chains, which not every tank build has access to chains. I mean, technically they do, but I will say, and this will probably kind of transition into races and classes, Dragon Knights are the only ones that have a manual chain ability, where you basically throw a chain out, you grab an enemy, and you pull it towards you. And I don't think that triggers aggro. I think it's just where you pull them. There's been a debate for a long time about that. And I think it's just where you just pull them towards you. And that way, like, if you have a DPS throwing down AoE, like somebody else's Dragon Knight, and they're throwing down a Dragon Knight standard on your position, you could just pull enemies towards you. You can't, because it's a crowd control effect, you can't say, like, you know, chain a boss and pull a boss towards you. You can't. There's a certain level of NPC where that just stops. But necromancers have their bone armor, which if they're hit from something that's ranged, it pulls them, and that is actually way more useful than people might think, because you are obviously, as the tank, constantly having, you know, enemies throw things at you. So it's really cool to just, you know, have your armor passively pull things towards you. You're not using up resources. You're doing your own thing, and it's really cool. I think there is only 3 the third chain I'm thinking of, and I have it equipped right now, is one we got with Greymore, and it's the Vatashron set, where it turns one of your abilities and adds to it. So in the case of Vatashron, it turns your Reverberating Bash, which is from the One Hand and Shield skill line. I don't remember what the original skill is for it, but, you know, strike an enemy full force, dealing X physical damage, stunning them after the stun, taking additional X damage. This ability's damage is considered bash damage and interrupts the enemy if they are casting. Oh, that's interesting. But Vatashron adds an ability to that, and it's a really cool one, and it's the kind of ability where it makes me go, do I want to go with 2 5-sets and a 2-piece, which would be my Nazarene monster set, or do I want to just go 1 5-piece set, a mythic piece, the monster set, the Vatashron, and whatnot? And that would be because, so when you deal damage with Power Bash, oh, that's the original ability. You apply Call of the Void to yourself for 2 seconds, enemies within 12 meters are pulled immediately to you. And 12 meters is a wide range. There are skills that go even wider than that, but like for a pull, that's just insane. After Call of the Void ends, you apply Major Maim to enemies in the area for 10 seconds, reducing their damage done by 10%. This effect can occur once every 13 seconds. It is a powerful ass set. So, but I don't really think there's any other chain abilities outside of those three. There could be, but those are just the ones that are coming to mind right now. Shields, which I don't think we've actually really talked about, are status abilities that if you've seen your health bar kind of gain like a purpley color, whatever, kind of like an overshield in Halo. That's what shields are. They add more ability for you to take more damage. As a tank, if you can apply this to your group, that is absolutely fantastic. Let's see. Nope, not. I want to go to skills because there's a specific skill that I use from Undaunted? Yeah, Undaunted. And that is Bone Surge. So you surround yourself with a whirlwind of bones, gaining a damage shield that absorbs up to 15,375 damage for 6 seconds. This ability scales off your max health, and what's really cool is an ally near you can activate the Spinal Surge synergy, granting the ally and up to 5 other allies a damage shield that absorbs up to 30% of their max health for 6 seconds, and Major Vitality, increasing their healing received by 16%. Because this isn't attached to a class, I will argue that this is a must-have skill. It's just, there's just so much here that this ability does. It's just absolutely insane. Actually, the final ability that I'll talk about, and then we can move on to a few more things as we're going a little long into this episode. But we, took 15 minutes to kind of, chill, get to know each other. So this one is from last year. My old co-host, Chris, talked about how one of the people that he played with actually used energy orbs as a tank. So not only is the healer throwing out energy orbs, but so is the tank. So basically, it helps people gain resources back, project a glob of regeneration that slowly, or globe, that slowly floats toward you, or floats forward, healing for almost 1,000 health every 1 second to you and nearby allies. An ally near the globe can activate the healing combustion synergy, causing the orb to explode and heal for 4,384 health to nearby allies, and restoring almost 4k magic and stamina to the activator, whichever maximum is higher. So
now, the problem with that is that if you've already synergized with an orb, there's no need for there to be 2 orbs in the group, because there's a 20-second cooldown on orbs.
Yes, and that's what I was about.
They can't hit a second orb, and that's why I would say the healer should run it and not the tank.
Yes.
The tank could run the damage orb, and it would do a little bit of damage, but they can't synergize with it for 20 seconds after the first orb. So there's really no need for the tank to run an orb if the healer's running orbs.
Yeah. It's one of those, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because you're absolutely right. It's one of those where if you've gotten a lot of your skills leveled up and everything, and you're looking to kind of maybe look for some backup stuff, it's a good thing to have fully leveled up and ready to go. That way, in case for some reason your healer isn't running orbs and can't run orbs, then it's like, oh well, I happen to have that skill fully leveled up. We're good to go. We'll be fine. Mm-hmm. So, but that was the only thing. I thought that was kind of cool. But yes, you're totally correct. They changed it, if I remember right, to where only one person it could activate it, or there can only be one orb active at a time, and the cooldown, like you said, is 20 seconds. So, talking about resource pools a little bit, tanking involves heavy health pools for well, not that tanks exist in PvP, as we just said we don't, but you were talking about how, like, in PvP, you know, people build tanking anyway, high health pools about 30k. I would say that's probably the, like, bare minimum for tanks in PvE. I know people say, oh, you only need, like, 30, 32, maybe higher, and you're fine. I personally run 50k, around 50k, sometimes higher, sometimes lower, depending on if I have food on or not. So, I mean, for some people that might be too high, but I prefer it. If you can get, if you can have your setup that you need and still just keep gaining more and more health, like, you know, why not? As long as you're not struggling with your resources. If you're struggling with your resources, and again, we'll talk about this with builds, then recalibrate your build. Go, okay, well, instead of a health glyph, I need more magicka. I'll put a magicka glyph on this piece of armor, you know, whatever is holding you back. Because sometimes you will get into those fights that are just some of those boss fights that just drain you quicker than any other boss fight might. But that also ultimately just might be how the boss fight works, where, you know, especially if it's a new one that come out, you're learning and stuff like that. That's just maybe how the dungeon is set up. You will balance resource pools. It really, you're not DPS, you're not healing, so you don't necessarily need too much in one or the other. Although, because blocking is very important, you might want to, depending if you're, you know, running sword and board for your blocking, or if you're doing that really cool, you know, Ice Destro stave as setup, you're gonna want one health pool to be, or not health pool, resource pool to be maybe a little bit higher than the other. I believe mine, you know what, I had this person, like, ask me to trade, and I'm just like, no, I don't care about you. I'm gonna pop my...
take the free shit.
Well, that's just...
See, a lot of times it's on accident, but I always accept trade advice in case they give me something.
Oh, no, so do I, but I accepted it, and I've been here talking to you guys, and nothing's been put into my inventory, so I'm like, okay, I need to do this, I'm done with you. So,
right.
My health currently with food, with sugar skulls, is 53.4k. My stamina is a little higher, 21.2k, and my magicka is 19.9k. So, pretty good resource pools. I don't struggle too much. Again, sometimes I get into those fights. It also very much depends on your dungeon group too. Your dungeon group also determines how much your resources get drained, because it's how hard you're having to work. How many times do I have to be casting this ability because, like, you know, they're dying, or they're not taking the synergy, or whatever it may be. So just because on one fight or a couple fights you find yourself struggling, I give it a little more time. And if you're just constantly struggling, then maybe it's your build. But more often than not, when you're struggling, sometimes it might be the other players in the dungeon. And notice how I'm talking about dungeons and not trials. We'll eventually get into trials, because I don't even touch trials. That is a whole other ball game. Oh my god.
Not that bad. They're fun.
They are. Like, I'm not saying they're...
Look, man, I do PvP all day, and I still do more trials than you.
Yeah, I think trials are really fun as when you get a good play group. They're just very intimidating because there's a lot of people, and the mechanics can be more complicated, and one person's usually having to herd cats and coordinate everybody. Okay, tanks, you need to do this. Healers, you need to do this. DPS, you need to split up and focus on, again, whatever the trials mechanics are, and it can just be a lot of chaos. But if you got a good group and you're practicing, or you have a lot of people in that group who are veterans, or you've already played, you just go, okay, this is how we do this, and you just run with it. So, but for now, for especially new players, I want to just talk about how dungeons are probably going to work for you. So we got the stat pulls out of the way. Talked about blocking a little bit. Blocking is very important. There's ways to increase how much damage you can block, reducing your block cost. We'll get into the champion point system, but pay attention to what's in your champion point system, because before they redid the champion system, everybody kind of all just had the similar setup depending on what role you were doing. But now you have a few more cool toys to play with, and the way they set it up, they're, adding more things, which is cool. But there is stuff that doesn't take up a slot where it's just a passive thing where, oh, I get more health, I get more block mitigation, reduction cost, stuff like that. You really want to pay attention to that kind of stuff when you're getting into your champion system or your champion points. Same with, damage mitigation, because, again, you're the one taking all the hits, so you want to be able to, look everywhere and go, okay, how can I reduce my what's being taken and keep my survivability up? Going into best/easiest tank classes and races, we're just going to do a brief overview because I think, well, every class can tank. It just depends on how well. So,
You're on some you have to work a little harder.
Yeah. But mostly because some classes don't have tanking abilities, really. Like the Nightblade, there are Nightblade tanks. I'm not saying they're not. And I'm not saying they don't run really well, but again, we're talking about a class that is just difficult in general to learn and to get used to. But Dragon Knights are the original tanks, and they still run as hard as ever, and they have, chains and stuff like that, and really cool abilities. Necro is god tier for, we talked about before, the Resurrection, and now, especially with the Nazari monster set, that Colossus giving up to 6 enemies major vulnerability for 12 seconds. Well, now you've doubled that time. So it's really cool. And in that time, especially if you're in a mob heavy fight where enemies are going to keep dropping and you're constantly using your necrotic potency to suck up souls, as I like to call it. So you're gaining your ult quicker and doing things like that. So you're almost right around the corner when that debuff drops off and you're ready to drop your ult again, which is really cool. I love how it says this can only affect a single target every 30 seconds. And I'm like, who the hell is getting their ult up in 30 seconds? So those are really, and Wardens. I would say that the top 3 is in no particular order: Dragon Knight, Necro, Warden. You can do a Templar, you can do a Sork, you can do a Nightblade.
It's gonna be a little more difficult.
Yeah, because if you look at how classes are structured, they usually have a DPS skill line, a healing skill line, and a tanking skill line. But actually not all classes, at least at face value, have that. So Dragon Knight clearly does. Well, maybe not so much healing, but Dragon Knight clearly has DPS and tanking ability. I would say the Templar has DPS and healing and, so on and so forth. So all classes have the ability, but not all classes are going to be easy to run any role, really. So as far as races go, Imperial is good. You can do
I think Imperial and Nord some Argonian are the main tanking races.
I was gonna say, and maybe Redguard. Oh, Orcs are
Redguard
sturdy.
has good sustain though.
Yeah, I was gonna say Redguard. It depends on your build too. Like, what are you trying to go for? Like, because there was before they changed it, the Redguard had its passives tweaked because you were able to have an infoblock build, and it was insane. And in case that might not seem obvious, it was just where you could sit there and just infinitely block, just taunt, infinitely block, because your stamina was being regenerated while you were blocking faster than the damage you could take. So it was really cool. So, but yeah, I would definitely say Nord is the top, because it gives you health, it gives you stamina, it gives you ult regen, not a huge chunk, but I personally think it's enough that it makes a difference especially my build, I'm starting to kind of get into like, oh, I kind of want to do an alt-themed tank build.
In my opinion, and from what I've talked to with one of my other tank friends, is Nord's good, but Imperial's better.
Yes, and I've heard that too.
And I think the main reason is one, it gives you Imperial gives you stamina and health, and
Yes.
it also reduces the cost of your abilities by 6%.
Actually, Nords also give you stamina and health.
Okay, but it doesn't reduce your ability cost. It gives you frost resistance.
Uh, and it gives you physical and spell resistance. And in addition to when you take damage, you gain 5 ultimate. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. Again, it's not,
Okay,
enormously
right.
huge.
And I'm saying Nord is great, but the vast majority of people who tanks have told me that Imperial is better for those reasons.
Right, exactly.
And that's why a lot of tanks are running Imperials, especially because you don't always know how your group's going to be, if the DPS are going to stand and fire, if the healer's going to get a bunch of ads on them. So Imperial, is better for that reason, because so you can get your abilities off and that costs less.
Right. I might look into doing a race change and test and see how like I play with an Imperial. I also just like the fact that how big the Nord character build is. Just my character's freaking huge, and I always forget about that until I like walk by a random guard and I'm like, oh right. I tower above you. So yeah, kind of giving you guys I would say if you're starting out as a tank, what, Dragonite? Imperial Dragonite? Probably. I can't help but like fall in love with the Necro just because of like necrotic potency and how the bone armor is. You have what is that? You have Spirit Guardian, which you conjure a ghost by your side for 16 seconds. It heals you, and while it's active, 10% of the damage you take is transferred to the spirit instead, which is hilarious. So, necro tanks aren't too complicated to run. So if you want to get started with a tank, I would say either the classic DK or I would go Dragon Knight. And as for because I'm clearly biased, Nord or Imperial, you can't go wrong. If you're doing a necro tank, I would say try Argonian because necros are very focused on health, and you can and there's a lot of healing stuff synergized with necros, so you can just see how that shakes out as well. Oh, again, race change, Argonian. Might see how that works. So, we've talked about gear a little bit. I will say we've talked about before. Your armor weight's gonna probably be all heavy, and you're doing your 5-1-1, so your head's gonna be medium, your shoulder's gonna be light. I think that is about it. Oh, and before we go, if my computer would stop freaking out a little bit, I think it's because I have the ESO stuff and it's got ads on it. It's making it freak out. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah. So, rotation and weaving. I would say that tanking is the least intensive on rotations and weaving because you are very much reacting to the situation that is currently around you. Oh, do I need to keep aggro? Do I need to throw this shield out? Do I need to throw debuffs on? You're more reacting to the world around you than being like tunnel vision focused like a DPS is. Or I would even say like healers have to be, because obviously the healer's job is focused on the players to keep the players alive. So if you're looking for something that's not too like, oh, I have to do this skill light, this skill heavy, this skill whatever, tanking is definitely good, because that was a problem I had with DPS, was like I couldn't focus on that, and when I got into tanking, I'm like, oh, I don't feel stressed.
Right.
So, and I think that's it. I'm sure that we'll eventually kind of like put together all the things we missed and do a deep dive combat roll where we're just kind of like a junk drawer episode, which is coming soon. I'm so excited. Actually, yes. Is it next episode? I can't remember what I did the schedule for. Oh, look, there's the schedule. Oh yeah, junk drawers next week. Yay! Or next episode. I'm so excited.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. I felt like it was so far away, but then that also means July is coming to a close here soon. Oh, I'm not looking forward to it because I have to have surgery on my toe, which I'm not looking forward to. Oh well. Alrighty. Lainey, did you have anything to close out with, or?
I mean, no, it was nice to learn some stuff and go over some of the stuff I've been told.
Well, it's same with the healing episode. I was really like, it was nice to just kind of sit back and listen and go, okay, that's cool. You know, ask my questions. You know, hey, you know, how's this work? Why do you guys do this? Kind of stuff. So I like how all the combat roles have kind of been, okay, DPS, we're all kind of on the same page about. It's a no-brainer. You know, okay, healing, that's you guys. I'm learning. You know, tanking, okay, cool, that's my turn. And, you know, you're learning. I like that balance. I'm really happy about that. So that's it for this episode of Legends Rise. Thank you all so much for joining us. And remember, if you want more stuff, you can check out our Discord. Once again, the links to those are on our Facebook and Twitter at Legends Rise ESO. Come be a part of the fun and make some new friends. And if you want more out of your experience, you can go to patreon.com/Legends Rise ESO and become a Legends Plus member. Music is Sons of Skyrim Epic Metal Remix, edited by me and performed by Brandon Strader, and you can find him on YouTube and Facebook at BESTRADER. That's Best Raider. Lainey, where can the fine folks find you at?
Well, I'm still at Adexi the One-Eyed on PC and A. You know, come hang out with me with all my add-ons.
Yay! And you can find me on Xbox at Everyone's Problem, spelled with a 0 and no E at the end. Come hang out with me on the North American server, or if you aren't up for ESO, come join us on Halo, COD, Minecraft, Sea of Thieves, and a bunch of other stuff. So yeah, I should say this one last thing before we close out. My streaming last Tuesday did not go well at all. So what happened is for some damn reason, and I was in the game. I wasn't like in the opening menus or anything, but I was trying to start up Twitch and it just kept saying this game doesn't allow for live streaming, and it kept shutting off. And so I did one with Halo MCC real quick. It ran Halo MCC just fine. I did it with Sea of Thieves, ran just fine. ESO, wouldn't let me. And I'm like, no, the game definitely allows it. Like, ZeniMax has their own stream team, so it definitely allows for streaming. So finally, I just got on with my best friend Kenny, and we just played Sea of Thieves. And that's what you guys might find every now and again. You know, especially because it kind of breaks up the monotony of just doing one game a lot. Plus, we can have more fun sometimes because Kenny is just absolutely hilarious. Again, I've done comedy with him. He's just absolutely hilarious. Love that man to death. Just had his 31st birthday. We actually just went to that last night. It was a blast. Love getting together with all my real life friends. Oh, and we also love tormenting Red Robin. So, not that we went to Red Robin last night. We had a party at his place, and it was like I said, it was a blast. Literally, he shot a popper off in my ear. Ugh. So, but yeah, you can probably when I'm not streaming ESO, you can catch me on Sea of Thieves doing late night stuff. Again, it's hilarious. We have dark humor, so be prepared for that. It's definitely not necessarily for the light of heart sometimes. Alrighty, I think we've drug this show off long enough. Oh, God. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you in Tamriel.